Day 17, what we're going to focus on is sales advice that we get given and how to use everything we've covered in this course, this 21-day brand communications course, to apply to selling. Ugh, does it feel icky? I shared my ick about selling, but I do it. If you're an effective communicator, you are essentially selling, you are influencing, you are convincing others. Day 17, we're going to look at this bit of advice that we get, which is lead with the value. Don't describe it too much. Don't bang on about the features. Just tell them what they're going to get or what's the value of it. Some of this advice is so generic, and I would say that you need to tailor it to what you do as a communicator. Of course, you should focus on the benefits. Of course, the benefits will convince somebody, but it's best to know how to tailor this to your audience, to your target. And we talked about the target in day 16 and really knowing your audience and being immersed in it. And I scrolled through separate days of this 21-day course, so you could reference, okay, if I jump back into that episode, that will give me the background, the know-how in order to understand this aspect. So with leading with the benefits rather than just describing the thing, we're going to hopefully, well, definitely level up your communications. Um, ooh, mojo. So I'm Serena. This is Serena's Playbook. I've been in communications for more than 20 years. And I'm also a chartered public relations practitioner at the time of recording. And at the time of recording, I'm in the final few months of my MSc in Systems Thinking. Let's get to this. So, standard sales advice, describe the features, don't go into too much. You have to deliver. You have to deliver a concept. You have to sometimes tell a story. And so going through the features helps. You've got to piggyback them onto the benefits. It sometimes goes hand in hand. You can back this up. For instance, if you go to day one, when we talked about your core values as a brand that you're communicating for, we even looked at having the awareness, your strategic awareness of your brand that you are advocating for, representing, and really getting to know where the potential gaps are in your communication infrastructure, whether it's the kinds of things that you say or where you say it. Using that insight, you can figure out, okay, so here are the benefits of what it is I offer. And there are some things, some details that I know are going to back it up, such as our core values as a brand, that's going to back it up. Such as, we know the gaps in some things, where we communicate, we are actively filling in order to more powerfully get to our people. And when we did that work, we know that TikTok or that particular newsletter is the way to connect with them. So then when you're describing a feature, you'd be like, and we talk about it on you've got TikTok, right? Or your audience loves long form content. Yeah. Do you know that we have a Substack newsletter? There's some features, there are some descriptors that help you to sell the benefit. But until you've done this work, it's going to be quite tricky for you to make this pitch meaningful. And making these sales pitches meaningful so that you can really connect like in an effective way with your audience requires you to do some of this brand communications work. There's a reason why I looked at reflexivity and thinking like a communicator, because what we don't want to do is just go through a laundry list of must do this, must know this, and therefore you're done. It's a constant evolving process when you're communicating for your brand. And that's why I've built in these days where we do integration, or we need to reflect a little bit more on the way a lot of these areas of communications overlap. Nothing is ever in isolation. And people don't think in isolated ways. Definitely, I would say an exception to that would be political campaigns, very emotional slogans where people will ignore everything and focus on the one experience or the one bit of data or the one social phenomena, and just isolate it from everything else going on, and really honestly quite lack quite a bit of critical thinking. And that's not great, but that's why lots of populist parties end up doing rather well, because they will capitalize on the fact that you will get more engagement with, for instance, social media and digital content if it's something that's a little bit risque, where people will share and no one will know that they've shared the content. They may not comment, but they'll still share it far and wide. And there's studies that back this up, especially during the Brexit campaign in the UK. And the reason why I bring that up is, of course, there's some exceptions. But when you are communicating about your soap business, or the service that you provide for tractors, or your violin teaching to young budding musicians, yes, of course, you'll focus on the benefits, but you want to connect with them over the features as well. Allow the benefits. I think this is, again, is coming back to storytelling and connecting with your audience, or the target, sales target, right? Um, Requires you to bring it to life a little bit more. So what I do here, and I don't do it on purpose, I do it meaningfully because I really mean it, but it's a great example. A lot of my content is about you leveling up your strategic thinking. And I will say you're going to get this from this video, or this from this tutorial, this from this series. But I'll also talk about other features, such as, you don't want cognitive rot, you don't want to outsource all of your thinking, you want to still level up as a person who thinks well and has the faculties, even if there are uncertainties with AI, etc., etc. So I will appeal to that part of you. It's a feature of what I do. And it's a value of mine, to be a thinker, a critical thinker, and to zoom out, which is why I decided to study systems thinking at postgrad level. So that's where the strategic awareness comes in. That's where you've got to think about the authenticity trap, about how it serves your audience, your authenticity as serving your audience, not just for you to vent and rant about your pain and your life. That was a really interesting episode. Actually, check that out, day 4. So once again, these additional areas I have 7 strategic zones. You can check out playlists for each one of those zones, but my separate areas and zones all overlap with one another. And when you do that reflexive work around your brand communications, what ends up happening is, when you are then leading with the benefits of something, you have awareness about, but there are certain features that I know are really going to appeal to this person, and therefore I am going to add that in, to add some color, to add some texture, to bring it to life more, to tell the story, to convince. So this episode really was about joining the dots for you and reminding you of how you would sell, focusing on benefits over features, and how that generic advice doesn't always fit. And you would need to do some of the reflexive thinking around your brand communications in order to arrive at more convincing arguments, convincing statements, convincing, effective, and, let's say, influencing communications, or content, because you don't just want to engage that once, ideally, you want to keep them in that loop. Sounds manipulative, but it's part of relationship building. You want to keep them around. There's a reason why there's a study done, and I'm sorry I can't pull the resource from my head, but I've heard it somewhere. If you have your audience stick around for long form content for more than 2 hours, they really get to know you and they feel they can trust you and therefore they'll buy from you. So it's about that relationship building. How are you with this so far? I really appreciate your time and attention for day 17. It's been so wonderful to have you here. We're going to continue talking about sales and influencing with powerful communication. We're going to talk about objections. We're going to talk about stories. We're going to talk about um, urgency. And then we're going to integrate on the final day, day 21. You are so awesome. If you haven't already, please do subscribe. And I will see you in tomorrow's episode.